For about 30 years, Silicon Valley had an unspoken rule. It wasn't written in any company handbook or incorporated into any IPO prospectus, but everyone in the industry understood it. You don't do military work. You build apps, you build platforms, you build social networks and search engines and cloud infrastructure and maybe self-driving cars. But you don't build weapons. You don't take contracts that end with people dying. That was the line. It was cultural, it was political, and for the most idealistic generation of tech workers who flooded into San Francisco and Palo Alto in the 2000s and 2010s, it was almost moral. That line no longer exists. In the first half of 2025, venture capital firms poured $38 billion into American defense tech startups. $38 billion in 6 months. JP Morgan projections suggested that if the pace held through the second half of the year, the full-year total would exceed the previous all-time record set in 2021. The same Silicon Valley ecosystem that launched protest movements against military AI contracts is now its single largest emerging investor. And the companies being built with that money are not building defensive shields or communications infrastructure. They are building autonomous weapons systems, AI-enabled targeting platforms, drone swarms, and hypersonic-compatible delivery vehicles. To understand how dramatic this reversal is, you need to remember what happened in 2018. Google signed a contract with the Pentagon to help the Department of Defense analyze drone surveillance footage using machine learning algorithms. The project was called Maven. 4,000 Google employees signed an open letter saying their employer's values, which included the famous "Don't be evil" motto, were incompatible with building military AI tools. 12 employees resigned in protest. The story became a major cultural inflection point about the tech industry's relationship with the national security apparatus. Google eventually ended its involvement with Maven. That was 2018. Today, Palantir's AI systems are embedded inside every U.S. combatant command on the planet. Anthropic's Claude chatbot is being used for intelligence analysis in the active Iran war. Google itself, through various partnerships and cloud infrastructure agreements, has quietly re-entered the defense technology space. And the company at the very top of CNBC's Disruptor 50 list, the most influential ranking of innovative companies in American business, is not a social media platform. It is not a biotech firm. It is not an electric vehicle manufacturer. It is Anduril Industries, a weapons company. Anduril was founded by Palmer Luckey. He was 21 years old when he founded Oculus, the virtual reality company that Facebook bought for $2 billion. A few years later, he was quietly pushed out of Facebook after it emerged that he had donated to a political action committee supporting Donald Trump. He took that money, that engineering talent, and a very specific worldview about American defense, and he built Anduril in 2017. Today, the company is valued at $30.5 billion. Last week, the United States Army signed a contract with Anduril worth up to $20 billion over 10 years. No fighter jets in the product catalog. No ships. No tanks. Just software, autonomous systems, AI-enabled surveillance networks, and next-generation drone technology. One startup. One contract. $20 billion. The legacy defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, General Dynamics, RTX, have been quietly watching a company that didn't exist 9 years ago begin to eat their lunch. The industry term for these newcomers is neoprimes. The original primes, prime contractors, are the legacy giants with the decades-long relationships with the Pentagon, the congressional lobbying infrastructure, the manufacturing facilities that cover entire states. They are slow. They are bureaucratic. They are extraordinarily expensive and notoriously overscheduled. The F-35 fighter jet program, operated by Lockheed Martin, has cost American taxpayers over $1.7 trillion in projected lifetime costs and has been plagued by technical problems across its entire development history. The neoprimes are selling a different proposition. We are software first. We are agile. We iterate faster than a government procurement cycle can even respond to. And the products we build are designed for the actual battlefield of the 21st century rather than the Cold War threat models of the 20th. Investors are responding. Jameson Darby, co-founder of Millvet Angels, an investment syndicate whose roughly 250 members include Navy SEALs, Wall Street financiers, intelligence officials, and tech founders, described the current environment as having more money than ever flowing into the neoprime category. He acknowledged it remains a fraction of the overall defense budget, but characterized the trend as all positive. His co-founder Ernestine Fu Mack argued that the critical technology gaps in American national security, hypersonics, AI integration, autonomous systems, space domain awareness, cyber capabilities, can only be closed by companies that operate with startup speed and software-native architecture. Legacy contractors, she argued, simply cannot move fast enough. The economic logic is compelling. The Pentagon's annual budget exceeds $800 billion. Defense startups captured 1.3% of Pentagon contracts in the first 3 quarters of 2025. That sounds small until you do the math. 1.3% of $800 billion is still over $10 billion. And that share is growing. 2 years ago, it was half that. The trajectory line points in one direction. But there is a deeper force driving this shift beyond pure economics. It is a cultural and political transformation in how Silicon Valley understands its own relationship to the American state. The progressive, internationalist, borderless internet ideology that dominated the tech industry's self-conception for 2 decades has been substantially displaced by what you might call techno-nationalism. The loudest voices in venture capital and founder culture, Peter Thiel, Marc Andreessen, David Sachs, Palmer Luckey, have been articulating a consistent worldview. America is in a technological competition with China that will determine the global order for the next century. If American technologists refuse to build weapons on moral grounds, the weapons will still be built. They'll just be built in Beijing. And the world that results from Chinese technological military dominance will be a world with far fewer of the liberal values that Silicon Valley's progressive wing claims to care about. This argument has proven persuasive in ways that would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. Google, which ran a protest-driven exit from Project Maven in 2018, has seen its employees file formal opposition to new AI defense projects in 2025 and lost. The cultural momentum inside the company has shifted. The executives won the internal debate. And when Google's AI infrastructure is now supporting intelligence operations in an active military campaign in Iran, the 2018 protest feels like a different era from a different company. The structural consequence of this shift is significant. Companies like Anduril and Palantir have moved from being novelty disruptors that Pentagon officials cautiously experimented with into being core infrastructure providers for American military operations. Anduril took over Microsoft's $22 billion augmented reality headset program for the U.S. Army. Palantir and Anduril formed a formal alliance to pursue government defense contracts together. SpaceX's Starlink has become indispensable communications infrastructure in multiple conflict theaters. These are not peripheral vendors. They are embedded in the operational architecture of American warfare. And the money flowing in continues to attract more founders who would not previously have considered defense as an industry. The pitch is simple. The problems are hard. The resources are substantial. The mission is patriotic, and the exit opportunity, whether through government contracts, acquisitions by prime contractors, or eventually public markets, is enormous. Shield AI is building AI pilots for military aircraft. Hermes is developing hypersonic aircraft. Ursa Major is building rocket engines. Etherflux is developing space-based solar power for military applications. The defense tech startup ecosystem in 2025 looks, in many ways, like the consumer tech startup ecosystem of 2007. Early, fast-moving, capital-hungry, and absolutely convinced it is changing everything. Whether the traditional defense contractors can adapt or will simply be acquired and absorbed is one of the key industrial policy questions of the next decade. Boeing's defense division has had a catastrophic few years technically and financially. Raytheon, now RTX, is operating at maximum production capacity and still cannot meet wartime demand for Patriot interceptor missiles. Lockheed's production lines are not designed for the rapid iteration cycle that software-native defense platforms require. The primes may be too large and too entrenched to fail in the traditional sense, but they are being outmaneuvered in the innovation layer that increasingly determines how wars are actually fought. The workers who protest internally, the Google employees who declare war on their company's defense AI projects, the Anthropic employees who were shocked when their company was blacklisted, represent a genuine and continuing internal fracture within the tech industry. This is not over. The tension between engineers who believe their skills should never be applied to lethal systems and executives who believe national security imperatives trump those moral preferences is a live cultural conflict inside every major tech company that holds defense contracts. But for now, the money, the momentum, and the geopolitical narrative are all pointing in the same direction. Silicon Valley is arming America. It's doing it fast. It's doing it with the confidence of people who believe that moving fast and breaking things is a virtue, even when the things being broken are human beings in a war zone, and even when the questions about accountability, oversight, and the ethics of autonomous lethality remain substantially unanswered. The question America hasn't yet decided how to answer. When the people building your weapons are also the people shaping your information environment, funding your political campaigns, and sitting in the rooms where national security strategy gets made, is that concentration of power a feature or the most dangerous bug in the entire system?